Reconstruction of the V&T Railway. It's Wednesday, February 28th, 2024. It is 9:02 a.m., and we are here at the Carson City Community Center, Robert Bob Kroll Boardroom. Tamar, could I get a roll call, please?
Chair Peterson,
Present.
Vice Chair Mitchell, Treasurer Cruz,
Here.
Secretary Hicks,
Here.
Commissioner
Schmitter.
Ms. Schmitter.
Here.
Sorry,
That's
I-
okay.
I was going to.
All right, we have a quorum. With that, if everybody could please stand, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We'll go ahead and move on to agenda item 4, public comment. At this time, the public is invited to comment on and discuss any topic that is relevant to or within the authority of this public body. Any public comment in the room? Okay, seeing no takers, we'll move on to agenda item 5 for possible action. Approval of the minutes of the January 24th, 2024 meeting. Any edits, changes, anything anybody wants to comment on the minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion. Yes, please, Stephanie.
I move to approve the minutes of January 24th, 2024.
Thank you for that motion, Stephanie. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great, motion carries unanimously. We're going to move on to agenda item 6, and then just for the record, we are going to pull item 7 because at this time we don't have the reporting available to us to approve the budget. So we'll come back at the March meeting and we'll do January and February at that time, just for the record. So we're going to pull 7 today. But let's go back to 6 for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding the V&T's statement of accounts payable checks paid January 1 to 31, 2024. We have a total invoice listing for accounts payable checks of $350,154.65 for January. Any questions for Leah or Sherry on the January check run? Okay. Anybody want to make a motion on item 6? Go ahead, Leah.
I move to approve the payable checks for January 1 through 31, 2024.
All right, thank you for that motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on item 6? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. Motion carries unanimously. All right, with that, we are going to go ahead and move on to agenda item 8. And just for the record, there was some late material posted on this particular item, as well as item 10 to the website, and it is at the back of the room. So with that, agenda item 8, discussion and possible action regarding a proposed train event agreement with Rail Events, Inc. on behalf of itself and of Warner Brothers Consumer Products, Inc. for the hosting and conducting of a themed event named the Polar Express, under the same terms and conditions as the event agreement I entered into on June 24th, 2021, for the term beginning November 1st, 2021, and ending January 15th, 2024, with possible expiration dates through 2029, and designating the V&T Commission's chair as its authorized representative to further negotiate the agreement on behalf of the V&T Commission. So I'm happy to say we have Jarrett Ireland, VPGM, with Rail Events, and Ed Rozicki, licensing manager, here with us. And so if you gentlemen don't mind coming up, just kind of let you guys talk through what the game plan is here with getting us potentially through the 2029 PEX season. Perfect. Yeah, and then just push the button. Yeah, when it turns green, you're live. You're ready to roll.
There we go. I think we're on. All right. Yeah, David, thank you for chance to just come and speak on behalf of Rail Events and Warner Brothers Consumer Products. To be pretty straightforward, the agreement is actually an extension rather than a whole new agreement. So legally and term binding, we were able to get an extension now that we can extend to host venues that have ran the event. Of course, we're over a decade now in working together here in the V&T and a very successful Polar Express event here. So obviously from our own side, we'd love to see it continue on in its state and continue to go far. The agreement itself goes to the end of what we call an event operating season. So Polar Express, when you contract and license it through us, you're allowed to operate the event anytime each season of an operating period from November 1st to January 15th. Now, obviously, most people stop when the holiday season kind of ends, but the agreement, because of that, is structured that whatever year you pick, the expiration date is going to be January 15th of the following year. So, for example, if you wanted the entire extension, which would be starting November 1st of this coming year, you could carry it all the way to actually January 15th, 2030 would be the expiration. From our perspective, you know, if it makes sense because of sub-agreements or anything else tied to it, because we recognize this is a little more unique with the vendors and the way that it works to pull off the event, you know, we're open to anything from if you want to do a 2-year agreement, a 4-year agreement, or take it all the way out. So it's really the ball's in your court to decide on that. But the flexibility is we can go all the way to January 15th, 2030. One of the reasons why we at least extend that in the Heritage Rail community is simply if you're doing things like grants or investment. A lot of organizations like to know that, okay, if I'm going to take this to an investor or look for a grant and I want to say, hey, I have 7 years of opportunity with this, it just looks, you know, or 6 years, it looks a lot better for that purpose. But as far as where you want to go with it, it's the same terms and structure as the last agreement because it's an extension, not a new agreement. It actually has the same licensing terms off of the master agreement we have with Warner Brothers. So really the ball's in your court to decide the length. From another side, just looking back, we've always liked the relationship here. We think the organization does a wonderful job on pulling off the event. We recognize the community strength of it. And, you know, we'd like to see many more years of working together. So.
Thank you, Jared. Just real quick, I just want to acknowledge that Vice Chair Mitchell joined us at 9:08 a.m. And Clay, are you able to hear us in the room? Just want to make sure.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Jared, will you just state your name again? Sorry, just
Yeah,
for the-
I'm sorry. Jared Ireland, Senior Vice President, General Manager of Rail Events Incorporated.
Thank you. That's for tomorrow, so it just helps her. So thank you. Go ahead, Ed. Yeah, thank you.
Ed Rozicki, licensing manager with Rail Events. Just to follow up with what Jarrett said, I mean, our biggest goal is to encourage and facilitate an experience that passengers really appreciate and want to come back to, and we do that through part of the way we do that is through a survey or a way to monitor that. And the end score is a net promoter score. Meaning whether passengers or attendees at any kind of event would promote the event and come again, tell their friends that they enjoyed their experience. 50 being a positive score. V&T Railway Commission had one of the highest scores at 73. So that's that's a tremendous outcome. And another point in that is the survey was conducted in January, which can negatively affect that score, but still, again, you had one of the highest scores, and so my hat's off to you. So yeah, maybe next year, if we could get those sent out weekly or bi-weekly, the score might be even higher, but it'd just give you a better benchmark and some better feedback on the event when the event's fresh in those riders' heads. But we do appreciate, I forget whether Candy or Sherry reached out to conduct the survey after the fact. I think there's some miscommunication on the front end, but nevertheless, the survey was conducted. We appreciate that, and it's more for you to use and evaluate how the event's done, and which it did excellent.
That was all on purpose to sandbag the score. We didn't want to have that big of a standard deviation from the rest of the places that you're running DEX. So, no, that's great. That's excellent
Well,
feedback.
for what it's worth, like what Ed said, usually if you do it in January, you'll actually get about a 5-point swing negative. So it could have even been greater. And we did look 121 participants, which it's not 121 people. It represents 121 parties. So that would be about 600, 700, depending on the average party size. So it'd be about 5% replied to the survey, which is a little low. Usually you like to be 10 to 15, but it's high enough that it'd be statistically relevant. In other words, if you went out and you just did a exit poll, usually they try to get, 2 to 5%. So it's still relevant, but hopefully in the future we can also kind of hear it early on in the season too, and we'll certainly work together. Again, I don't want to harp on that piece because actually the information was extremely positive, so let's focus on the positive.
And another point to make is the national average was 55. So that's 48 other events around the U.S.
That's excellent information. So thank you for sharing that with us. I appreciate that, you guys, and thank you for being here again. Appreciate you
absolutely.
guys coming in person to talk through this, because it's a big deal for us, right? This is our
Sure.
single biggest
Sure.
thing that we arguably do as the V&T every year. So
Absolutely.
I'll open it up if anybody has some questions for Jarrett or Ed. Shoot away. Yeah, please, Stephanie. Yeah, go ahead.
So I just wanted to have a little bit of a conversation regarding what is in the contract as far as our ability to terminate the agreement. And the reason I ask that is, you guys are aware, this last year, I mean, it was fantastic that we were able to make it a go, and we did such a great job at it, but there were some issues getting there. And based on the way our commission is set up, we're in a unique situation, and so that can cause us difficulty. So should we get ourselves back into a situation like that in the future, or should perhaps our commission itself be reorganized by the legislature at some point in the future? What are the termination clauses as far as our ability to get out of the contract?
Yeah, good question. Technically, it does not have a defined termination clause. However, it doesn't have a minimum guarantee or requirement. So here's the key, though, just so there's full transparency. If you sign the agreement, from our perspective, your intention is to run it. So what can't come out of that, where there is protection, is you can't then change and say, well, we decided a totally different Christmas event without written approval from Rail Events to deviate. But it doesn't have a minimum guarantee. As far as how many years to do or how to match it, I think that's more where you probably have to have the internal discussion on how far you want to hold it. But it doesn't have a minimum guarantee. Everything's just tied directly to ticket sales. So then now it's due on royalty, but it doesn't say or $10,000 or cancellation fee or anything like that. It's all, you either run it or you don't run it. Where we would step in would be, as far as on the clauses, would be you didn't run it and you chose to do something else without our written consent.
But if we didn't run it and we didn't run anything else, there's no penalty.
There's no penalty.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
And we had quite a few of those examples during 2020, as you could imagine.
Yes, we did.
And it was interesting navigating those waters and trying to make events happen, or trying to help facilitate events at locations that did want to run, and then locations that found it not financially feasible. We said, that's understandable. You know your books better than we do. And so that was a great test of that.
Yeah, in fact,
that
I'm going
scenario.
off memory, but I think we even granted a letter for, I think you all were going to, or I can't remember if you attempted, like a drive-through experience in the parking lot. And we actually granted a letter of approval to say, hey, for the year, go ahead and do that. And I mean, obviously, 2020 taught everybody about what's the most extreme of what an agreement actually says. But, but I think that is a real-world example. And that was on the same terms of this agreement, so. Mhm.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys. Good question, Stephanie. Thank you. Michelle, Leah, Clay, do you guys have any questions for Jared or Ed? Okay. Thank you. Does anybody want to make a motion then to move us forward with the extension? And to let me obviously work on getting everything filled in, signed, and all that good stuff on behalf of the commission. Nobody has to either if you don't want to, but go ahead, Stephanie.
I move to award the agreement to REI for a term ending on January 15th, 2030, and designate David Peterson, the commission's authorized representative, to further negotiate the agreement on behalf of the commission.
Great, thank you for that motion, Stephanie. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you for that, second, Leah. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this particular item? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion carries unanimously. So thank you both for being here, and thank you to all of our vendors for, that's a kick butt score, you know, hearing that we would have been at 78, you know, pushing 80. Excites me. So that's our goal for this coming year is a big 8-0, and we want to blow it out of the water. But no, seriously, thank you guys. Thank you for extending, you know, the terms to us, and I think this is great. So now we'll work on our vendor-related contracts and agreements to have us ready to go for this coming November. So thank you both.
Wonderful. Thank you, David.
Take care.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Clay, timing-wise, do you want to tackle the schedule because I know you might have to duck off at still 9:30. Do you want to tackle the schedule real quick? Or do you want to go into the marketing? What do you prefer?
I think it may be a longer conversation than we have time, and so I think it probably makes sense to pull some of the other things in first.
Okay. All right, great. Okay.
Once I get that thing launched at 9:30, I should be back. I'm guessing within about 10 minutes.
Okay.
After that, and so that's about my time frame today. Thanks for your
Okay.
flexibility.
Oh, yeah, no, of course. Okay, so with that, Melissa and Regina, we're going to go ahead and we'll take up agenda item 9 right now, discussion and possible action regarding a proposed marketing and social media management plan through fiscal year 24. And so I'm going to ask Sherry, will you bring those sheets up then on the screen so we can see them? Just give her just a second, unless you want to. You can get started if you want to. But just don't forget to identify yourself for the record. You ladies take it away. So thank you for being here today too. So appreciate your time. Yep, there you go.
Regina Flores with Almada Marketing. Good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So I will be going over the social media, public relations, and email marketing plan for the spring. Starting with March 15th, we will distribute a press release to local and regional media, with the messaging being that the tickets for the first train rides of the year are now for sale, and that opening day is on Mother's Day. There is no spend associated with this press release. The second item is a newsletter that will be distributed to all subscribers on MailChimp, with the same messaging as the press release and no ad spend on that as well. Accompanied by a social media post on the 15th as well, posting an announcement for the first train ride with no ad spend unless there is budget left over from our marketing, but that is to be determined. For now, it'll be an organic post. Followed by a press release on April 28th, distributing to local and regional media, letting the public know that we are 2 weeks away from the first train ride and to secure tickets. There is no spend on this item as well. On the 28th, we will also distribute a newsletter to all subscribers with the same messaging and no spend, followed by a social media post as a reminder with no spend as well. It'll be an organic post. On April 30th, we will upload a digital banner to Carson Now, letting the public know to secure tickets for the first train ride, and the spend is to be determined. We have an estimate that we are working through, comparing a couple of different pricing options. On May 2nd, we will do an organic social media post with a real video style, and it will be an announcement for Mother's Day, and the spend is to be determined. If there is no ad spend behind that, it'll be an organic post. From May 6th through the 12th, it'll be all social media posts and reminders with a countdown beginning on the 9th, and those will be organic posts. Nope. That is it for social media, email marketing, and public relations.
Okay, thank you, Regina. Can I ask you a question? So I would like to make sure, and you may not have known this, so forgive me. We're going to be transitioning the Mark Twain train to the VNT. So that will be the Friday of the Mother's Day weekend. So I definitely want to make sure that we are coordinating with Visit Carson City, where I work, the day job, as well as Brewery Arts Center, because they're actually putting on the Mark Twain Days Festival,
Okay.
and we're just the destination sponsor. So it's a little bit of a change for us from
Okay.
the Visit Carson City perspective. But I definitely would love the VNT to be all over that as well. But we need to kind of sync together. We also, this go around with VCTC, Virginia City Tourism Commission, the events will be up in Virginia City throughout the entire weekend as well. So we need to make sure we're also coordinating with VCTC, probably Leah through you on that end of things.
Okay.
So that's something that if we can work on that, that would be delightful. If we can have a kind of a nice effort of us working together and just getting the messaging out there about that.
Okay.
So that would be great. And I think Candy too, if we can have you be a part of that just from ticketing side of things, since it'll really be a special event train truly, but ticketing will be handled by the commission, so not us as Visit Carson City, so it'll kind of be similar to how we've done our other trains, right? So that would be great.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah. And then, I'm sorry, I don't want to ask all the questions, but just to confirm, on the 15th, because today we'll approve a schedule, right, for all of our long line trains, you feel like that will give you enough time to have everything ready to roll for the 15th with kind of a blowout social presence? And because I think we're planning to do something with our newsletter database as well to get that out. Are you comfortable, Regina, with a couple weeks to
Yep.
prepare for that? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, lovely. Okay, great. Any other questions from the commission? Okay, I like it. I think this is a good plan of attack. So I like the way we're spacing things out as well. I think this looks really good. So very cool. Okay,
Great. Thank
great.
you.
You're welcome. Yeah, Melissa, do you want to talk us through the next piece?
Yes, for the record, Melissa Dietz from Dietz Media and Marketing. Okay, so, and actually Regina and I were in conversations before we laid anything out, just to make sure that what we were doing was working together. And to piggyback on what you just said about Mark Twain, I'm also working on the Mark Twain media plan. So I can work with
Excellent.
Regina on that one too, just to make sure that we coordinate all those things.
I wasn't sure
Yeah.
how exactly that was gonna
And I
take
work on the
place.
Virginia City media plan, so I'm just getting around.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you are. Oh, well, okay, so this is really good, actually. That's
Yeah.
excellent. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're doing that then technically now with Spike and the team and,
Yes,
yeah,
I just met with
lovely.
them. We had a call on Friday.
Okay,
And it sounds like they have some very good media connections already that they are, will hopefully be able to do some things in earned media that
Excellent.
the media budget's pretty modest. And so, and media rates have gone up, so that doesn't help. So they're going to see what they can do through earned media, and then I'm going to kind of come in and support from underneath.
perfect. And not to,
Sorry.
hoodwink the whole conversation about Mark Twain, but we do have some money internally as well. So I think coordinating with Lydia again would be great.
Perfect.
And I
She
know
was
that's
on that call,
Oh,
yeah.
good. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
then see.
Yep, she's been
I-
good about staying in the loop
I don't
there.
even know why I come into the office sometimes. They've got it all covered. That's great. Yeah. No, this is perfect. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So to go over the plan today, this is just a media plan draft. We were asked to try to stay with a budget, within a budget of $28,000. And that was to include social media, but because Regina's already on the ball, it was like, oh, okay, well, I guess that part is handled. However, I did let her know, and if something comes up that we do need to take some money out of this and reapply that to some social media efforts, one of the last things I added in here was some YouTube. And so if we had to pull some things out, I know where I could start pulling from to make that happen. So this is very fluid, this budget. It's just kind of a starting place to say, okay, we like this or we don't like that. So the whole goal of this is to generate awareness and drive ticket sales for the V&T Railway. Our planned flight, we're launching this in, it's staggered a little bit, partly because we want search and retargeting. We want to get those started as early as possible. So as Regina gets her messages out there and people start searching for it, we want to make sure that we're there. The outdoor launches a little bit earlier than the television and the radio and the online efforts. And that's really just because it aligns with the Mother's Day flight. If we wanted to do a specific Mother's Day message, I want to make sure it comes down the Monday after Mother's Day. So, which I think it's fine to come out and kind of stagger this and just kind of start chumming the waters, I guess, if we could. So we'll come out with a Mother's Day message on outdoor starting in mid-April. When that comes down, then we can come in with a general session. These outdoor boards are the posters. So you've got the big 14 by 48 foot bulletins. These are the ones that are the half size. And it's just something that kind of gives us an opportunity to be in the market, to get the image out there, generates a lot of impressions, but it's not necessarily a budget buster. So we'll start with that. With television, we'll come in with AM news, evening news, weekend news, something like Jeopardy, things like that that are appealing to this particular audience. For these, we would need some 15-second spots. And I had sent you all the creative that we'd had in the past. So we may have to work on refreshing some of those things.
Yeah, can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
Was Zach on the call by any chance? I just didn't know. And, when you were on the Mark Twain one, was he on with Lydia? Did you guys chat about video assets?
No, we had Spike and Val.
Oh, yeah, Val
Okay,
Moon. Yeah, okay.
okay, yep.
Okay, so I do need to follow up with
Okay.
Zach
And again,
Lydia.
we
Okay.
can work with the TV stations on that. If we need to do something and kind of keep it low cost, as long as I can provide the assets to the stations, I'm sure I can get one of them to do it for free or a very small fee.
Okay, okay. Yeah, let me see what we have, because we did that lovely photo shoot. Tom was kind enough, I mean, we brought the whole train out, and I'd love to incorporate some of that footage into something. And
Okay.
we use that in our efforts as well as Visit Carson City. So if we have something that's already ready to roll for TV purposes, that
Okay.
would, I mean, we might as well take advantage of it, I would say.
If you have somebody who could put that together the way that you want it, to where we
Sure.
can just use it and reuse it, then that probably is better. You know, the TV station, not that they don't do a good job, they've got the
Right.
expensive equipment, but if you want a specific creative direction and handle that, then it probably is better to take that to.
Okay, yeah, and Zach, that's
I
what
know,
he does
third
for us,
party.
right? He
Perfect.
slices and dices
Okay.
this up for all the different mediums and channels within, so.
Okay.
Okay, no,
right.
that sounds good. I will get back on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we will start with 2 weeks leading into Mother's Day. And I think if I remember correctly at the last meeting, Mother's Day, the Sunday sells out pretty quickly. Saturday doesn't necessarily sell very well. But I think really it just is a good way to kind of kick off the season and just say, hey, we're here, don't forget. And then we'll run 2 weeks of television after that with just a general season message. And the reason that I just did 2 more weeks is that you'll see on the media plan on the very top, there's a little orange block. That's the political window for media. that's when media rates go up. And we're right in that window. So our rates are going to be higher. We won't get the bonus spots that we typically get. So it's just a little bit heavier lift this year than usual. And I didn't want to put a bunch of money into television, especially when we start getting to the end of that political window, because I think it's going to be even harder to get in there and kind of fight through some of that clutter. So we'll do the television for 4 weeks to start. Then to supplement that, we'll also run some radio. We'll kick off again 2 weeks before Mother's Day. And then we'll just have that sustaining campaign that will run us through the rest of the fiscal year toward the end of June with the radio campaign. Then below that, we have digital. You can see we have search and retargeting that'll always be on from, March 1st, or we could start even sooner. I guess we can't. That's next week. Boy, did that creep up on us fast. Okay, so we'll start that soon. We got to get that going. And so we'll get the search and retargeting going as soon as we can. And then with the display ads and with YouTube, it's kind of the same thing. We'll do that 2-week launch before Mother's Day. And then after Mother's Day, we can change that out to a general season message and keep that running. And that is the plan.
This is great.
Do-
So,
okay.
Melissa, yeah,
All right.
thank you. So 15s on TV, it looks like for YouTube and traditional television is what we'll need then.
Yes, so if
Okay.
we could, and I think we can get the message across in 15 seconds, and it just helps us kind of extend that budget a little bit longer.
Yep.
So anything that as long as we can make sure we get our point across. If we don't feel that we can say what we need to in 15 seconds, then we need to adjust and go up to 30s. But if we
Okay.
can do it in 15, let's try it. And then whatever we use for TV, we can use the same thing for YouTube. And the reason I selected YouTube on here versus like an OTT or a CTV or something other than this is that it's usually a little less expensive to get in there, and we can buy the non-skippable versions, which typically I think we've seen like a 98% view completion rate.
That's awesome.
So it's just a great way for us to kind of supplement after television has gone away to still have some video presence.
Okay. And then just a question on the digital side of things.
Mhm.
We'll be able to make sure we have the tracking on the VT
Yes.
Railway. And I know we've got some issues with the website as we've talked about, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to see that in the analytics side of things so we can get some reporting back.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
We typically do that, but
Okay.
maybe if you guys have had some changes to the website, I probably need to double check and see if our pixel is still there so that we can do that tracking. And if not, then we'll just submit another one to you.
that would be super, because
Okay.
Sherry, I don't know where things stand, as far as if the pixels are in place or not. So
Okay.
if you can help us with that, that would
Okay.
be delightful.
All right.
Just, yeah, given the site and,
Okay.
it's barely hanging on, so,
Fantastic.
okay. No, that's great. Are there any questions? Does anybody have any questions for Melissa or Regina? Cool. I like it. I think it's a good plan to get us through the end of the fiscal year, and then I look forward to, I'm thinking, maybe as we get into May or, I don't know, June's too late, but looking forward to a fiscal '25 plan, I think would be great, so we can kind of lay out next fiscal year as well. So, but this is lovely. Gets us through, and I think it works well just based on our next agenda item in terms of when the trains are running. I think this coincides quite nicely. So cool.
Okay, so
Yeah.
with this timeline working, if
Mhm.
it's agreed to that this is the way we want to go and we want to start, then what I'll do is I'll get a list together of the assets that we would need and the deadlines, so we can figure out who's going to pull together what and when we'll get it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be excellent. So cool. I do have this on, or we do have this on as a action item. So if anybody would like to make a motion on this one, that would be super. Do you want to, Stephanie?
I will do it.
Okay.
I move to approve the proposed plan as presented.
Oh, that was simple and easy. Thank you for that motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Oh, Michelle beat you, Leah. That's awesome. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great, motion carries unanimously. Thank you both for being here, and thank you for putting some time in on this, so.
We almost made that 9:35 deadline.
I know we did. We were close. Yeah, you did a really good job. Thank you for trying. They talk a lot, as you can see, right? So, not my fault. Okay, Clay, are you back? I don't see you in person, so let's go out of order. Mihaela, if you're okay with that. We're gonna skip 10, come back to that when we see Clay back on the WebEx. So let's move on to agenda item 11 for discussion only. So these are our monthly non-action items. 11A, executive assistant update. Jerry, I included that in case there's anything you want to kind of fill us in on, since the retreat. Okay. Okay. So I just, wanted to give you the opportunity in case there was anything you wanted to say. Any questions that you all may have for Sherry? Okay. Do you have, go ahead, Michelle. Yeah, please.
I just wanted to thank Sherry for facilitating the retreat.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I agree. It was great. And I promise next year we'll start at like 7 in the morning. That way we can go all day. Michelle, I was reading. Yeah, no. Thank you, Michelle, for making that recommendation. That's lovely. Very cool. No, I agree. I think there was a lot of good productive conversation that we had, and I like doing those. Excellent. Okay. If there are no other questions for Sherry or comments, we'll move on to 11B, Operations Trains Report. Candy, do you mind filling in for Tom? Okay, come on up. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Don't forget to state your name, of course.
Good morning, Candy Duncan, V&T Rail Road. I get a little confused. Too many trains. Anyway, thank you for including me in the retreat. That was very interesting. I really enjoyed that day. I didn't get bored at all, so that was great. One of the things, and I have to admit to you, a little bit of confusion. I realize that I am working for Tom Gray, but some of the things that we talked about during the retreat, I was a little confused about whether I should, through Tom Gray, be doing the things, or the commission is just going to do it at our suggestions. And those were like, I felt like you really wanted to do some sort of a printed piece to leave on the train for passengers this season, and I wondered who was going to do that. And you mentioned that you'd like a better ticket, and so I got Smith & Jones to do a mock-up for me, for you, but then I started thinking, well, should I have done that, or is that something that you should do? And then we talked about a rack card, and so those are some questions that I have. Just how will those all be fulfilled, and do I play a role in that, or do I just stand aside and let you guys do it? So that was a question, but it was a really good exercise, and I enjoyed it. I know that Tom and you guys, Clay and Sherry, are working on the schedule, and so to me, that's, of course, our most important thing we need to get done soon, because I'll need to get that all in on the Fair Harbor ticketing system so that we will be ready when you are to start selling tickets. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm also excited that we did so well for Polar Express. That's really amazing. Actually, it shouldn't be. We're all great. So of course we did well. We did great. And let's see, Tom, I'm trying to remember if there was anything else. I printed out his email. Oh, yes, and then that was another question. The events, the evening events that we talked about, whether they be wine trains or family trains or whatever, as to who would be actually putting those together, as well as Mother's Day. Who's going to do that? Who's putting that together, just so that I have the correct information and I know what my role is, and then I can also, when I start answering the phone again, be able to have the correct information to talk to people about that. So, and I don't want to I just want to do what you need me to do, and I'm apologizing in advance for my tendency to just want to take over, because that's not my role, so.
I love when you take over.
No,
Don't
no.
apologize. That's great.
No. No,
Just do it.
I retired.
Oh, yeah,
so-
you say that. Oh, my gosh. Tired.
I'm trying to be that retired person, but it's just not working for me.
It's not
is
working.
it?
Yeah.
It
Try
isn't.
try less hard to retire, will you?
So I think that was the extent of it. I'll be just interested to hear your discussion on how you want to put that schedule together for this coming year.
Yeah, and we'll jump back to the schedule. I would say for the special event trains, I think that's the easy one to work through Sherry on those for sure, right? And I realize you're going to have to kind of collaborate and work together because you have to build out the ticketing side
Right.
in Fair Harbor. But yes, please work with
Mhm.
Sherry on the special event trains. The printed piece in the rack card, I'm struggling with a little bit because we don't have contractual relationships with anybody to create those pieces. Having said that, I mean, if it's something I need to get Kay on, who's a graphic designer that we use on the Visit Carson City side, I'm happy to do that as well.
I was I was under the impression that it was something we were gonna do maybe in the future. It wasn't something that needed to happen immediately. But that's just my takeaway from it. I don't know if that's what everybody else feels.
I had thought we were going to try and get something, for the season, whether or not we could do it, this fiscal, or it was going to be something that would impact like July forward trains. I would love to have something in place if that's possible, but, and I don't mind, if I could get what you showed us before the meeting, and then maybe if you're comfortable, I can have a K, take a crack at coming up with some designs and then bringing those back, I guess, at the March meeting for everybody to take a look at. I'm happy to offer to do that from the Visit Carson City perspective. So, and I realize we have to find some money to do the
I was just
printing,
gonna
of
say
course,
that
right?
Works with the budgeting side of it.
Yeah. So we do need to identify for sure, the printing, but at least to get something going, taking kind of the concepts, right, and coming back with something at a March meeting so we can all see it and give some guidance or approval on direction. And maybe in the meantime, we can figure out if we have some money available for printing and what that would look like. So, because we could do a short run too, and then know July 1st, if we build the budget correctly, then, right, we could do a larger printing, to get us through all of next year too. So we could kind of split that up between the two fiscal years. Go ahead, Michelle, yeah.
Are we looking at laying out 3 different pieces? I know that's what Candy had mentioned. Or do we want to start with the takeaway, the newspaper on the seat? Or do we want the new ticket? What are we thinking?
Those are
For the
such
rack
wonderful
card.
questions for Leah and Stephanie.
Yeah.
You're right, because we do have three pieces that we're talking about. So I would look to you guys, how would you like to prioritize those?
Let me rephrase what I said earlier. I think I was stuck on the rack card. I think that was something I was thinking with future. The ticketing
Yeah.
portion, and definitely, I think we all agreed that the on the seat
Yes,
paper was something we wanted to do right away.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that will be not difficult to find budget for. I mean, knock on all the wood. But,
Yeah.
I think that would be an important piece for people to have. But the rack card, I think we can.
I think you're right, that we were gonna
So I
build in
apologize,
next
I was
fiscal year's budget,
thinking
yeah.
of the other. Yeah.
So we could tackle the ticketing. The newspaper piece, for the life of me now, I just had that's what we do for Mark Twain Days, and I cannot think of, do you remember who that company was?
I
But
just talked about it, but I don't.
yeah, that's the only one that I know of that does those historical
yeah.
type newspaper-looking things, look like they were from the 1800s, and it's really, really cool. That one is a little bit of a bigger project, though, because we had talked about advertisers, I think, and then getting additional content put in there as well. So the ticket, I think, is the easiest
Right.
to take care of right now, and we know we need those for May. So maybe I could just focus on the ticket and come back with something from Kay for March. And then what I'll also do, maybe I can have Lydia come to the March meeting and she could talk about that company that does the newspaper looking, really cool, old newspaper insertions. Just so we have a better idea of what that all entails. Because, yeah, we'd have to build out content if we're thinking about having advertisers. Yeah, oh, yeah, perfect. So that kind of, is
Right,
what
yeah.
our Mark Twain one looked like. So, and you can see, I mean, it's a full build out, right, with advertisers, content, and all that good stuff. So that would take some time, right? And I need some direction as to what do we want to have in there as well.
Right, and it could be just a 2-page, it doesn't have to be as quite.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah, it could
as
be
this
simple.
one.
Mhm.
But, yeah.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, you'll have to, Candy, sorry.
Here, Candy Duncan. In that piece, you can really, as long as, I think what the main thing passengers want to know is where are they going? So they like to see that route map.
Yep.
And that's really been done before, and I'm sure you have the graphics for that. And then what do they do once they get to Virginia City? Where do
Yeah.
they go eat?
Yep.
Where
What's
do they
open?
get souvenirs?
Mm-hmm.
Suggested itineraries. So.
I like that idea. Yeah, you could almost suggest some, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
So
have
we
all
could,
you
that
do.
we could pull that in?
built,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
okay.
And then just to be fair to the other end, to Carson City, what should they do after they ride the train? What is there
Yeah.
to do? Stay another night?
Yep.
Have fun in Carson City? So
Yeah.
that's really just the basis of why we did the on-seat
I love it.
piece.
Yeah, okay.
And then if I just might add, and I probably did step out of line in having that, a new design kind of sketched out for you for the
No,
ticket.
no.
But I did, and I did use, did ask the people at Smith and Jones Marketing, so just, I don't know now how you want to handle that.
Right. Yeah,
Right,
because
yeah.
we don't have
Yeah.
a contract with them for
Yeah.
our
so.
work. Yeah, and I can't just do something either because I don't have an arrangement with them
Right.
either. But maybe, would they be comfortable allowing us to take that and just kind of further refine it? If I have
I can
someone
find out
else, will
for
you
you for
ask
sure.
just to,
Yeah, I
be on the
will.
safe side? Because we do, because I can only work with vendors that we have.
That you have a contract with.
Agreements or
Yeah.
contracts in place.
And
with
they
too.
do have a contract with Tom, but,
Oh,
so I don't know if you can work
well,
it, if that's a workaround
why don't
or
we just
not.
operate under, Tom's contract and then he can bill us?
If that works.
I'd be totally fine with that rather than
Okay.
trying to, fumble my way through something with someone else.
Okay.
Not that I don't love Kay, but
Sure.
yeah, that would make that easier. Would you be comfortable? Okay, so I know it's not for action, but okay. Okay, so so we're just on a discussion item, but
Right.
okay.
We're discussing.
Yeah, we're discussing something, so yes, okay. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Good. Any other questions? Clay, do you have any questions for Candy on 11B?
No, I think that some of the items around the evening trains and that will become a little more clear when we discuss the schedule item.
Okay,
And I think as it's just a report discussion item, I think we're good as far as this goes.
okay.
But we have kind of an idea, maybe bring something back and agendize it for a future meeting.
I like that idea. So Candy, you will chat with
Sure.
Sherry and let's plan on bringing something. Mahale, you're okay with that for the March meeting? Okay,
Okay.
some designs to come back.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Okay.
Okay, well, awesome. Candy, thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate it. Thank you for being there too at the retreat. Appreciate that. So with that, we'll move on to 11C. Our next meeting is March 27th, 9 a.m. right here in this building, in this room. With that, I'd like to go back to agenda item 10. So for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding a proposed calendar year 2024 train schedule. So Clay and Sherry worked on this with Tom and Candy, and I certainly appreciate all of your wonderful effort to bring us today a schedule that we can look at. And just as a reminder, this was late material posted last night on the website, and it is at the back of the room. So it is up on the screen, and I'll let you guys tear this particular item up as you see fit, okay?
Very good. I'm happy to take the lead on kind of presenting it if that's okay.
I love it. Thank you, Clay. And Clay, can you see it on your screen?
I cannot, but
Oh.
that's okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh, now I can.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect.
Do I have the same one
Thank
or
you.
that's
So,
different? Okay, I'll look at yours.
I just wanted to thank Sherry for her work on, for her work on this, and then the input that we got from Tom and Candy is super helpful. We still have a few things to decide or to deliberate on before we finalize this, and I'll outline those specifically, and then whichever ones I forget, Sherry can fill in and get me back on track. So before we get to those specific items, I just want to kind of give an overview of the features, if you will, or the changes with this schedule over last year. And so the proposal that we've put together is more robust. It would have us running more weekends. Last year, we took a little bit of a cautious approach. Our strategy was run fewer trains on weekends we're fairly assured would be busy so that we can have high ridership occupancy percentages. And that seemed to play out as we wanted it to. Now we're coming into a year with a very successful Polar behind us and a full season run, which we didn't have the year before. We had just kind of the end of a season. So we have some more momentum coming into this next year. And there's a bit of an economy of scale if we can run more trains. So originally we were really heavy on the steam, and we kind of started out and said, well, let's just do steam everywhere to start with. We're not proposing running Fridays, so it's just Saturday and Sunday trains. At Tom's advisement, we added some diesel train runs in on some of our weekends that traditionally have lower ridership, and that's to control our costs on the train costs, so that if the ridership is a bit lower, we don't have a fixed cost that's as high. The other thing is that we need to give some space for maintenance on the number 18. And as of right now, Tom's 29 is down for repairs and maintenance, and that's typically our steam backup. It's been kind of in the mix as a backup, if I understand things correctly. That is not the case currently, and up in the air for this season. So we definitely want to make sure we give space in the schedule to do proper maintenance that needs to be done on the 18. One of the things that we changed from when we first looked at it was we decided to remove trains on the last weekend of October, because the way that the calendar works out this year puts Thanksgiving late, but it puts the last weekend in October late as well, which is a pretty tight time frame to turn and burn for Polar. And so Tom's advice was he didn't think it gave quite enough time. It would be better to leave a little more time so we're not crunched to make the changeover and get ready for Polar. And so that was our thought, was just to not run trains on the last weekend of October. A couple other things to point out that are not really the meat and potatoes of this regular season, but as I mentioned with Polar, it would start about the same time, maybe just slightly earlier, in the middle of November. We would have a full weekend run, two actually, if I remember correctly, before Thanksgiving weekend. And then Thanksgiving weekend, we would just run Friday and Saturday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm sorry, I can't see the thing's not big enough for me to see. So maybe if someone could look at that.
Clay, where will you say, where are you at again, weekend wise? Are you on the Polar?
Into Polar, yeah.
Okay.
So you'll see we get started with our dress rehearsal, and we have that weekend, and then and a partial weekend on Thanksgiving weekend, and I think there's one in between there as well. It's just different because this last year Thanksgiving was quite a bit earlier in the month. And so it changes, it switches one weekend from that we had this year, what that was after Thanksgiving, to before Thanksgiving. As a total, I believe we're planning on the Polar proposed schedule. And again, that's something we'll fine tune as we get closer to actually going on sale for that. But I think the rough plan is 25 days, including running up to Monday, December 23rd. I'll come back to the evening trains. Well, no, let me just mention that now. Our proposal is to run 2 kind of Toast of the Canyon trains and 2 more kind of family themed trains. There's certainly a benefit to do those on a Saturday night when we're already running trains. There's an economy of scale there. Um, my thought on that is to approve at this meeting what the commission would like to do for how many of those events to do, and then we'll work to bring back a more specific proposal at our next meeting as far as a budget to approve for those, and who's going to run them, and specific themes, and really kind of nailing the details down at a later date. So at this point, just considering the schedule as to if we think we can take those on. Certainly, if they don't come together, they don't come together. That's what happened this last year, but that's what our proposal is there. We had several things specifically for the commission to consider, and certainly, if we want to do those evening trains, that's down the canyon. That's one of them. The second one has to do with if we want to run on the weekend just after the 4th of July and Labor Day. Tom advised against it, that those would be busy days already. 4th of July comes on a Thursday this year. And so the question is, does that give enough space if we run Saturday and Sunday on the 6th and 7th of July, or is that still really jammed up and too busy to be worth running? And so that's something that we'll want to consider, as well as if we want to run on Labor Day. One other question we'd like the commission to consider is, do we want to run a different schedule on the Saturday, or a different departure time, if you will, timetable on the Saturday of camel races? On the Sunday, the show is at noon. And so people could ride it up, watch the show, and then ride back on our regular schedule. But on that Saturday, the shows are scheduled at 10 and 2, if I remember correctly. And so the question is, do we run a train on that Saturday? If so, do we try to coincide its schedule with one of those 2 shows? And then we'd of course need to check with Tom with the other trains that he'd be running to make sure that there's good coincidence there, and we're not getting ourselves in trouble with scheduling on the tracks. And then the last note that I had was had to do with fares, and that's up at the top of the schedule in the right-hand corner. We did not propose changing the fares for either adults or children. The 2 items to consider that will allow us to then kind of forecast the revenue is, number 1, if we're going to do some canyon trains, evening trains that are more family themed, do we add in a child ticket price for those? Right now, there's nothing in there. And does it match the child ticket price for the others? And then secondly, I think there was some conceptual discussion at the retreat about maybe locals discount, or maybe just on slower days. That has the potential to add a fair amount of complexity to the ticketing side of things. And so that's something that, we'd have to weigh. Are we willing to accept the complexity? Is it something that's feasible to potentially drive some ridership into some of our slower days that we don't have full trains already? So those are my notes. Sherry, do you have anything else that we need to bring before the commission on this item?
You did great, Clay. You checked all the boxes.
He's awesome.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing. Thank you for walking us through that, Clay. That was perfect. So Leah, I know, has a question, and then Michelle, or comment, sorry.
Excuse me, I will start with, I see there's on Saturday, May 11th, a potential for a Mark Twain evening event train. Was that something you were thinking about, just duplicating Fridays?
No. Um,
No, that's, go ahead, Sherry,
No,
if you
go
want
ahead,
to
Clay.
explain what our thoughts are there. Okay, okay. So the thought there, and again, this came from the workshop. The thought was to do an evening train like a toast, but Mark Twain themed, because as kind of an overflow. So it would be down in the canyon on the Carson side, the same kind of model as we do for Toast of the Canyon, but with a Mark Twain theme.
Okay, perfect.
I actually like that because we'll sell out even with the fourth car on Friday night for the Mark Twain cocktail train. So that actually would allow people who could not get a ticket on Friday to have an experience, not the full all the way up to Virginia City, but at least they could have a train experience during that weekend. So that's actually pretty cool.
My only ask on that would be that when it is advertised, that it's very clear that,
Oh, yes, the difference between Friday
Mhm.
versus Saturday. So
Yeah.
that will go back to, our social media and then our marketing will definitely have to coordinate that as well. Because, that's the last thing we want is somebody thinking they were going all the way up to Virginia City Saturday night and then they don't. Go ahead, Candy.
I was just going to suggest that you be sure that, because that's a lot of crew time, you have to keep that in mind too for the engineer and the crew to be running Friday and Saturday, Sunday, and the 2 trains on Friday. So just to double check with Tom to make sure
Okay,
that works for him.
okay. When you say 2 trains on Friday, do you mean
mean
2 trains on Saturday?
2
Yeah,
trains on
okay,
Saturday.
okay. That's a good point, because there is a maximum number of hours, right, that they can be behind okay. Did Tom,
And if I can,
please, go ahead, go ahead, Clay. Yeah.
I was also going to point out that that's just over 2 months away, and we don't, as of right now, have a model in place for planning and producing those evening events.
Okay,
And so we want to be realistic
Okay.
about
how to do that.
about how to do that. And certainly, I think some of the discussion that we had under the discussion only item would apply here, that if we need to bring in additional resources, that would likely have to fall under existing contracts with providers as a pass through of some sort. Maybe there's either space or an augmentation or whatever, some additional funding that covers that. But we clearly don't have time to do a full RFP and what have you. But I don't know if we have on staff right now that the type of people that we would need to run these type of events.
Excellent points, yeah. It'd be a lot easier if we had to do a existing contract amendment than, you're right, spending 3 months to try to get us through an RFP, or 4 months to get us through an RFP process, so, okay. No, did Tom indicate any concern about the idea for that Mark Twain weekend with the 2 trains, that there might be a staffing issue when you all were talking about
I
that?
don't recall that that particular train was on this first schedule that we saw. Was it?
Okay.
I'm not sure if it
Well,
was.
at the workshop, it was Tom who brought that up.
Did he bring that one up?
That is true, you are right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then,
But
yeah, I guess he
He was
knows.
overzealous. He loved
Yeah.
the
Might have been.
idea of probably accommodating people that
Yeah.
couldn't ride on Friday, but okay,
Mhm.
but yeah, we might have to go back, you're right, and just work out the number of hours
Just
that would
make
be
sure that
involved.
there's, yeah.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Michelle, can we, okay, and then we'll come back, Leah. Okay, so Michelle, go for it.
I had a question for Candy about the price. So how difficult is it to do that discount? And
You're talking about the price for locals? I know, I was thinking about that too, because we would need to have some way for people to prove they're local. And what is a local? Is it a Nevada resident? Is a Carson City and Virginia City resident? Is it Gardnerville? I mean, yeah. So that's, those are questions we'd have to answer. And then I would have to talk to Fair Harbor and ask them how they would suggest we build that in. But we have to, I don't think it'd be tough for them to do. It's just for you to say what your description of a local is, what you want that to be. And it's probably just the easiest thing would be a Nevada resident, I would imagine. But that's up to you.
So real quick, so because the agenda item is just to discuss the schedule, it's not to discuss pricing or anything along those lines, we really can't get into price changes today. And I apologize because I wasn't even thinking about changing price or creating new ticketing pricing. So we just have to kind of keep our conversation today about the schedule itself. And I guess if we are going to have to make, or if we do wish to look at pricing changes, we're not going to be able to wait until the end of March. We might just have to have like a quick special meeting or something like that to proceed the release on the 15th, right, of all of our social marketing, all the ticketing, if we want to do that, but we really can't get into pricing today on this item. So sorry, Michelle.
I was just asking
Yeah.
how
No,
the
good. It was an excellent
difficulty
question.
in it,
Yeah.
if it was challenging,
Yeah.
and I think it could work.
Okay. So back to the camel races. Do you want to comment on that, Leah, as far as what you would like to see for the 7th and 8th?
The camel races are at a point now where they typically do sell out with no issue. So whatever the board decides is fine for us. The convenience for some people would be lovely. The alleviation of parking issues would be really nice for
Yeah.
the races. Our shuttle will already be running that weekend, plus other shuttles, so we can logistically make it work with whatever. It's just if it makes sense for all those involved to change it. I think we would be fine with whatever, so.
Because we'd need some messaging about that weekend, how it's different, but most of those people would be going anyway, right, for the camel races, so I think it's a unique audience. I love the idea of testing this, you guys, I really do, to see how it might work for a really cool, popular special event weekend, and I think that helps Carson City out as well, right, because we'd have people coming in through Carson City that ordinarily might just try to drive up and find a space in Virginia
And that
City.
is, like I said, I can't rehash this enough, but parking is our biggest issue in
Sure.
Virginia City. So that would
Yeah.
really be, it would help our advertising team too in terms of putting it out there to come up and through Carson. So
Okay,
I think it's a great idea.
yeah.
So if I can suggest,
Mhm.
because I'm anticipating that the motion that we will make will reference the conversation that we had on the record. On this particular item, what I would suggest is that we kind of, if there's support from the whole commission, that we plan tentatively to run Sunday train as normal and Saturday with a modified schedule, subject to that working with Tom and the other trains that he's running.
I like that idea, Clay. I think that's perfect, yeah. And I like what you said too about having a couple of different toast of trains and a couple of the family themed trains too, and giving some flexibility to figure out the appropriate weekends, to come back with that. But just the idea of let's make a decision. We want a couple of these, we want a couple of these, and then we can, if it's this fiscal year, we'll figure out with the budget that we have. If it ends up being in next fiscal year, we still have this next month before we bring the tentative budget back, so I think it's good timing. So go ahead, Stephanie, yeah.
I was going to say in regards to those special event trains, I think, since we're bringing these back, maybe just doing 2 out of the 4 would be the best option. And my recommendation, if we can make it work, is really that Mark Twain one, because I think we have the opportunity for that to sell out. So that's really good for us, even though that's the soonest one, which puts us in a little bit of a, I guess we have to decide who's going to facilitate it. And then I would actually recommend the last one, the mystery train. It kind of puts us at the beginning and the end of our regular season, so I think we can build up the hype a little bit more about that. And with the mystery train being close to Halloween, I think people are looking for those sorts of things to do. So that would just be my recommendation. I do support the camo races. I think that's a great idea. I would say no to Labor Day weekend and 4th of July, being that I think we have a more robust schedule than we did in the past, and since those are kind of questionable weekends, I think we could do without running trains those dates.
That's fair, yeah. Did you want to go ahead, Lee?
I just have a comment on the thought process around no train on
Labor
Nevada Day.
Oh, Nevada,
Nevada
okay.
Day weekend. How does that work? How's that worked in the past? Nevada Day weekend is such a big deal in Carson, and
Yeah.
not having a train, I don't know.
I think we're gonna get some pushback down here.
Yeah.
What do you think, Candy?
You mean as far as not having
Not
a
having it,
train on
yeah.
Nevada Day? Well, I can't, did we this year? Did we do Nevada Day this year?
I think it was our last weekend. We ended on Nevada Day weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
No, we didn't.
Or did we
had,
not?
our last train this year was October 22nd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we didn't, and we haven't, I mean, back in the beginning, we tried to do something special,
That's right.
but it
yeah.
didn't go over because everybody wanted to be here in Carson City.
Right.
And so
I
it
guess-
didn't
I
really
guess you're
seem,
right.
I mean, it was a very,
Yeah.
and then I think years after that, there might have been a couple where we did try and do something special for a Nevada Day train, but it wasn't very popular
Successful.
because people wanted to be in Carson City.
On Saturday.
On
So in the
Saturday.
past, did they ever do like something on Sunday to encourage people to stay over Saturday night?
Now, that's a good question. I don't remember.
Okay. I mean, I know that stuff
Not
because
that-
then we're not, economies of scale, we're only running one train and we have a
Right.
full cost, so I don't want to.
Yeah.
But I just wondered if that was ever something that came up maybe in the past about doing something to at least help with an overnight stay, make a full weekend.
Right?
You know.
That
for
would make
Nevada Day
sense.
weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm okay then.
This
Go ahead, Clay, go ahead.
I was going to say this calendar year is a bit unique because Nevada Day will be celebrated on Friday, October 25th.
Yeah, you're right. We're all kind of janky here by a week or weekend, I guess.
On Nevada Day weekend, Virginia City will be busy anyway, so it's not like
Okay,
it won't hurt anything to not have a train.
okay. And you
Yeah.
guys are running great marketing up there. Come to Virginia City for the day, stay in Carson City, so that helps with our lodging properties.
That's
anyway.
exactly what's on the table right now.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I love it. I
Uh-huh.
love it. Okay, so,
Mr. Chairman, may
yes,
I?
sir. Yes, Vice Chair.
I actually really like Stephanie's suggestion. I'm going to point out another element around the evening trains, and that is if we do a Mark Twain train at the beginning and a mystery train at the end, that actually gives us flexibility to decide to avoid the alcohol issues altogether. If that's something that we want to do, it could make our lives a lot easier because the theme is not the drinking, it's something else. And
That's true.
depending on staffing and whatever else, we could pull that out if that makes it easier for us.
For those two,
For those two.
For those two,
I
that's
don't know,
a,
non-drinking Mark Twain train.
well, it'll be literary in nature. Yeah, you'll need your
Oh, hey.
sound mind as you're being quoted, Mark
It
Twain
could still be a
quotes.
dessert train.
Oh,
We
yeah.
just would have to come up with some
Well, you could have Mark Twain
era
desserts.
yeah.
Yeah, some of his favorite desserts would be actually a great idea. Yeah, I'm totally
mean,
cool with that.
If you get to Saturday night on a Mark Twain weekend and you're sober, I don't know if the train is going to make all that much difference.
No, I think based on that conversation that we did have, and I recognize the concerns from last year, I don't think that that's a bad idea at all. And, you know, if you want to have a few cocktails before you get there, well, great, you know, but enjoy a nice alcohol-free train is not the end of the world as far as I'm concerned either. So that's a great suggestion. I'm totally fine with that too. Just one, because then at least we've got one in this fiscal year. We budget for one for next fiscal year, and then we see how things go. And my gosh, if something is wildly successful, well, then we could look at having a third or a fourth one for our 25 season. So that way we're not biting off more than we can chew. And I don't want to put like enormous stress on you, Sherry, and Candy and the team either, you know, to try to come up with too many of these just to get us out of the gate. So I think that was lovely.
I have a question.
Yes, please, Candy. Go ahead.
Candy Duncan, if for the Mark Twain evening train and the mystery evening train, you're suggesting then no alcohol at all on either one?
No, just the Saturday one. We'll still
And
have
that-
to have our Mark
at-
Twain
at
cocktail
night.
train. Yeah, but the Friday one would be like we did,
Right.
but less.
But
alcohol
on
for sure.
the evening train then, for the only Mark Twain train, no alcohol?
For the Saturday only.
For
Yeah,
Saturday.
only. Yeah.
For only Saturday?
Yeah.
And then again for the mystery one?
Yes.
So what's the hook?
But yeah, I don't think we're deciding. I don't think we're deciding that at this point,
Yeah,
right?
I just,
We're just that's an option, because what we proposed was to come back with here's how we're actually going to do these. So we're looking at scheduling right now. The question is schedule it or not, and that's what the agenda item is.
So I agree. If we can, let's schedule the Saturday one and the murder mystery. I'm sorry, the mystery one for the 10th of October. I like that. What? Oh, well, you're saying it's not a murder mystery train? Oh, sorry. Okay, never mind. We'll cancel that one now. I didn't mean to ruin it for you guys. Yeah. For the 7 people listening and watching, you know, I think we're okay. Okay, so can I ask a question about, so for Polar, I know that it's weird we lost a weekend, but because we are going to run on the Thanksgiving weekend, is that how we picked up, because we had 20, how many, 22 or 20, that we picked up 3 because of the weekend?
I believe we had 23.
23, okay.
And and I believe the weekend we pick up is the weekend before Thanksgiving. So we did run a limited schedule Thanksgiving this last year. It's
Gotcha.
just that Thanksgiving has shifted. So we only had one weekend before last year. Now we have 2 weekends before
Oh, okay.
Thanksgiving weekend.
Well, that's great. So that's 25 runs for us, which is excellent. So I really like that. I mean, I think that's a good thing. This we definitely need to get locked in, because as we bring back and figure out how we're going to deal with Carla, right, we'll need to make sure that she is understanding that we've added the 2 extra weekend, or well, how we're positioning it, but that we have 25 runs. So, okay, that's great. I like that. You guys did a really nice job on this. Thank you for taking the time to put this together. I like it. So does anybody have questions for Clay or Candy or Sherry? So I liked your idea in terms of the discussion that we've had, and if anybody wants to take a crack at a motion on this one, feel free to do so.
I'm happy to do it if no one else wants to.
Nobody else wants to, Clay. They've been waiting on you. They didn't think you could go a whole meeting without making a motion. I mean, I just lost $20. Thanks.
Oh, I'm having trouble with the sound. Someone else needs to make the motion.
You're killing me.
I'm here for you, Dave.
Yeah, I see that. Thank you.
So this is Clay. I will move to adopt the proposed calendar year 2025 and fiscal year 24-25 schedule with the changes as discussed on the record.
Thank you, Clay. Can I just make a small ask, just that it's the calendar year 2024? Since technically it starts now and goes into next fiscal, so for calendar 24?
I'm happy to do that, but it also includes our proposed schedule for the beginning of 2025 season because that's in the fiscal. And part of this exercise is to prepare our budget for the next year. And actually, I should have touched on that previously. So what we did with the beginning of 2025 was just to mirror what we were projecting for 2024. And what I mean by that is diesel runs, steam runs, same weekends.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's go with what you said. Because that gets us this calendar plus, I guess, through June of next. Okay. No, then that, okay.
Yeah, and we'll have this opportunity again to refine that before it happens, but at least it gets us the ability to forecast some revenue and expense numbers when we get into budgeting. So I think that's why we have it structured that way.
Okay. No, then that was the best motion ever. So
I second the motion.
there we go. See that? Got a motion, we got a second. Any further discussion on this item?
Just to clarify, Mr. Chair, that's fiscal year now?
No, so it's actually 2024. It's this, the rest of this fiscal plus next fiscal year. So we're going to mirror what we're doing this fiscal to get us started for next, or through the end, right, Clay, the end of fiscal 25.
Yeah, the way I tried to make the motion, but I'm not sure if I succeeded, was calendar 24 and fiscal 24-25, which should pull us to through June of next year.
Okay, I thought you said calendar and then changed it. Thank you.
Okay, so for the record, the motion is we're approving a train schedule for this calendar plus the first half of 25. So it's calendar 24, but it's also fiscal 25 because it would go through June of next year. You comfortable with that? Still seconding that, Michelle? Excellent. All right. So we'll try this again. So we've got a great motion on this item. A second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. Motion carries unanimously. We have a train schedule, people. This is awesome. So thank you. Great work. Seriously. Thank you. Thank you to all of you for putting this together. Thank you again.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Just to clarify, Stephanie proposed that we drop the evening events down from 4 to 2. And I just wanted to clarify that that's what we decided to do on that particular item.
I'm looking at everybody in the room, Clay. Yes, but that was from 4 to 2 for this calendar year. So that's not impact. I just want
Correct.
so just to clarify, that's just for the calendar year portion. That's not saying that we couldn't next May and June, have, yeah. Okay. Are we good with that? Michaela, are we all right with, okay. So Clay, you're still comfortable then as far as what okay, lovely. Great.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that portion was clear.
Yes.
And then, Candy
Candy,
Duncan,
yeah,
I have a
please.
question.
Yes.
And maybe this is going to be discussed next, but you did bring up the idea of a child fair for the evening trains, but you didn't say what that would be. So are you going to cover that later?
We will have to
Okay.
come back at, either a special meeting or we'll have to do something in March if we're going to address pricing because it's not,
When I start building in the tickets,
good point.
I will need to know that.
We might need to have a special meeting, you guys, to address, you're right, pricing then for that, which is, well, it'd be quick. I mean, it might be 15, 20 minutes. So, okay. We will, Sherry, you and I, let's work with Michaela to do that, especially if we're going to change any pricing as well, because you'll need to know that to build it into Fair Harbor too. So, okay. Okay. But you're right, because we'll have to do that quickly. If we have to get this out, because 15th, okay. Okay, fair enough. With that, we are on agenda item 12, commissioner comments or announcements and request for information. Anybody have anything they want to say? Leah, and then Stephanie, then Michelle, then Clay.
I will be really quick. I just wanted to let everybody know that last night we had our first, up in Virginia City, I set up a Mark Twain Days committee for Virginia City, and we got together. There were 8 of us. We discussed things to do during Mark Twain Days, but it was all centered around the train coming in on Friday. And we will have Saturday and Sunday events, but last night's meeting was very much about what the people can do when they're in town for the train. And then we are, just so you know, we, meaning VCTC, we are attempting to source 2, if not more, buses because there will be 4 cars. And that's a lot of people and not a very long amount of time to get around to do all the things that we will have available for them to do. We're trying really hard to do that along with our regular shuttle. So that's all.
Okay, go ahead, Stephanie, yes, please.
I just wanted to mention while we have plenty of time, our September meeting is, it's scheduled during the week that we have the Nevada Association of Counties, and in the past, that was a conflict for both Clay and I. This year, Carson City is hosting that. We're actually trying to host it in this building, so it would probably be better if we looked at some point to reschedule. So,
We will do that.
okay.
Thank you for saying that soon. Thank you. Michelle, did you? No? Clay? No? Wow.
I'm good to go. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. With that, we'll move on to agenda item 13, public comment. Second and final opportunity if anybody wants to make public comment at this time. Okay. Nobody's a taker on that one. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn. Michelle?
We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.